We have been highlighting Americans devastated by natural disasters. We have been asking how they would be impacted if relief funds were diverted to build that border wall the president wants. It's an option the White House says has been talked about during the government shutdown. President Trump saying, yeah, it's legal. He doesn't want to do it, but he can. My next guest, along with countless others, think this is a horrible idea. Here is U.S. Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett on the floor of the House on Wednesday.
I would also like to take this opportunity to express my strong opposition to diverting disaster funds to build a border wall, which would create a true national emergency. I yield back.
The U.S. Virgin Islands were decimated, as you know, back-to-back hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017 in September. Parts of the island still struggling just to get back to normal. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett joins me now. So, Stacey, what is the biggest need? Because I've mentioned this before. The news cycle moves on, but the rebuild takes much longer than most people realize.
Thank you so much for bringing this back into the news so people are aware of just what you stated, that we finished with the cleanup, and we are just now in the early stages of actual rebuilding. We haven't even gotten bids out. So many of our public schools were destroyed. Both of our hospitals, one on each island, were decimated. And so we are just in the beginning stages of rebuilding the Virgin Islands, of creating resilience so that we're prepared if, God forbid, there be another hurricane. When now we hear that the Pentagon, in briefing the president, have given him an option of diverting disaster funds, which are going to American citizens living in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and other places, to potentially build a border wall whose efficacy and effectiveness is really in question.
And I have this letter here that you wrote to the president saying, look, thank you in advance for consideration, you say at the end of the letter, and you look forward to a solution here. But you're saying this is not the way to go. This is certainly not the solution. And throughout the letter, you state specifically how this would affect people. And we're talking about just the basics. We're not talking about any luxuries here. We're talking about rebuilding food and water, jobs, infrastructure, you name it. Do you think this letter will reach the president? Do you think it will affect his decision making?
Well, I hope that my letter is the beginning of a discussion with him, along with other members of Congress who have brought this to his attention. But, you know, it's my hope with programs like yours, Susan, that American citizens will also reach out to the White House and to other places to let them know that this cannot take place. Listen, the House, Senate, as well as the president signed legislation which says the funding that they felt was appropriate for the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and other places to rebuild. We're not asking for luxuries here. We're asking as American citizens to have the basics so that we can rebuild, and also that we can create resilience so that should, God forbid, another hurricane come, we're prepared and can withstand it. There are individuals on the Virgin Islands, thousands of people who still do not have roofs on their homes. We're working through a roofing program right now. Our children are just started full day of school in October after having to be in shifts, and they are now in modular schools. We do not have schools. And our dialysis patients, if you can believe this, were just flown back home to the Virgin Islands after over a year living in hotels and other places because our hospitals were not able to meet the basics of everyday care for individuals. So this is not a time for us to cut short funding that has already been passed into law, but to look to other ways to solve the issues that are here in Washington.
Yeah, I was just reading through your letter about the roofs, the schools, the hospitals, not to mention how the residents are feeling emotionally and how this would damage them from a structure side, also mentally, and to rebuild and to get back to their new normal. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.